Hello everyone and welcome to your practice today. Today we'll be looking to find a balance between structure and freedom. So finding perhaps poses or asana that have isometric hold and finding places where we can maybe move then into space that is uncharted or undiscovered. You don't need anything for your practice today. However, I do have a block as I'm going to choose to sat on the heels, or technically with the block in between my feet for us to begin. However, you may always decide to end up being sat in a comfortable seat of your choice. When we're ready, we'll close the eyes or soften the gaze. And just give ourselves a chance to take a welcoming breath. Allowing yourself to arrive at your practice. To start to acknowledge how you feel. Maybe set yourself an intention for your practice today. Hands can remain on the lap, or maybe we take a hand to the heart, hand to the belly. Noticing the natural flow of breath. And if certain parts of the torso fill up the right or the left palm with more vigor. Imagining like that torso is a container to be filled with breath and emptied of breath as we inhale and exhale. Moving from this free-flowing breath, then beginning to add a bit of structure, a bit of purpose to our welcoming pranayama. On our next breath in, we're going to fill up about 1/3 of the way. Hold. Fill up another 1/3, so 2/3 full. Not quite to the top, but feeling more full than the start. And then taking that last little sip of air till we'll fall to the very, very, very tippy top. And exhale through the mouth. Let it go. Again, inhale 1/3. 2/3. 3/3. Let it go. Inhale 1, 2, 3. Release. A few more times at your own pace. Whenever you finished a round, coming back to a natural flow of breath. Maybe gently allowing the eyes to open, the hands to sit in the lap. And then we'll interlace the hands and push the palms out in front of us. And when we do this, we might find that we have a neutral spine to begin with. Think of curling the tailbone under, pushing in between the shoulder blades as well as pushing the hands forward and driving the chin to the chest, the belly button towards the spine. After your next exhale, we'll inhale to open up the tops of the palms towards the sky, peel the tailbone and allow the belly button to move forward, the chin and the gaze towards the sky. Maybe try and take those upper arms out of your eye line. Your next exhale, we round. And inhale, we lift and open. Exhale, round. Inhale, lift and open. We might stay with this back and forth, this up and down, or we might start to explore the space around us. Maybe using our hands to create a figure 8 shape, either out in front or round. Finding some form of movement through the spine, through the rib cage, maybe sweeping movements from side to side, getting in the corners. The breath now no longer needs to be paired with specific movements, just finding a bit of freedom, a chance to explore, find space that's calling to be moved into. When we're ready, we'll take the palms back up towards the sky. Here we're going to think of knitting the ribcage in. So previously when we came up, we found a back bend. Here think of hugging the ribcage in towards the center. Think of lifting the lower belly slightly up and slightly tucking the tailbone. We're going to allow our right elbow to bend and draw it down towards our right hip. So our hands are going to move to the side. You might find that your head finds the elbow crease of the left hand. Maybe here feels nice, or maybe we even move into a bit more of a side bend, allowing the head to rest into the arm and the arm to press against the head. Breathe into that uncharted space you've just discovered. Bringing yourself up and out, moving towards the left. Maybe this side is different, takes a little bit more and a fine tuning. Hug the ribcage in, nestle the head, maybe side bend towards the left. Coming up through center, palms back up towards the sky. Allow the hands to gently release. Draw the elbows down. Really feel the shoulder blades draw together. Still try and keep that rib cage tightly knit. And draw the elbows and shoulders down. So you should really feel the shoulder blades coming together and drawing down the back body. The movement coming from the shoulders rather than the back bend exaggerating. Inhale up. Now finding a bit of freedom in our back bend as we exhale. You can think of the tailbone lifting, really allowing the ribcage to move forward. Gaze, heart up towards the sky. Now like you're trying to scoop the heart with the shoulder blades. Deep inhale. And as we exhale, hands towards heart center. Making our way now onto all fours. Move the block out of the way. In our all fours, we'll start just by making a little bit of movement into the wrists. Here we might press the fingerprints, the finger pads, the knuckles down firmly into the ground, almost like a slight little clawing action so we can feel our strong connection to the earth. I tend to start with circles and maybe a bit of back and forth. You can always move the hands out in different directions, the fingers pointing maybe to the sides of the mat or in towards one another. Knees can always move closer to the hands if that gives you a bit more ability to feel into the wrists. And when we're ready, if this is something that's okay for our wrists themselves, we'll turn the fingers to face towards the knees. Be mindful here, it might be that this doesn't work for us at the moment, so we can always have the fingers pointing towards the top of the mat instead if we prefer. And when we're ready, we'll take a couple cat-cows. So inhaling, we're going to peel the tailbone up towards the sky, belly button down towards the ground, heart reaching through the upper arms, throat open, gaze up. And as we exhale, ripple effect from the tailbone. So starting to curl the tailbone under, hug the belly button up and in, push up in between the shoulder blades, and eventually the chin will come towards the chest. Moving in your own time, going at your own pace, but trying to be mindful. Mindful of the movements, the ripple, from crown to tail, tail to crown. There's no need to rush. And after our next exhale, we'll come back to a neutral spine, move the fingers to face in their normal orientation. It's okay if you need to sit back on the heels for a minute and roll out the wrists. We're going to find ourselves curling our toes under. We'll inhale in and exhale the little hover of the knees. Holding here, pushing down into the ground, maybe imagining as if you're pulling your wrists towards the kneecaps. Find a bit of engagement through the hands. Find a bit of a reach of the collarbone slightly forward, but without creating a back bend. And gently release. We'll come back to sit on the heels. Finding a toes pose. Maybe here's a chance to roll out the wrists, or maybe allow the hands to rest down in the lap. Taking a breath or two here. You can always interlace the hands behind the back body to find a bit of openness along the front of the chest. Maybe pushing the knuckles down, opening up through the heart space. Gently releasing. We'll find our way back onto all fours. That hover is going to come into its own here as we move through some cat-cow kind of spinal waves from all fours to down dog. It will make more sense, hopefully, as I talk you through it. So curl those toes under. When we're ready, we're going to inhale in and find that cow pose. We're going to start to move the bum back towards the heels, start to lift the knees, coming up and back to our downward facing dog. Coming up onto our toes, a bend in the knees. Now as we ripple forward, we're thinking cat pose. So try and really round, pushing up in between the shoulder blades, as we then allow the knees to come down to the ground, pushing down through the hands, chin to chest, tucking the tailbone. Inhale in. Find the cow pose, bum towards the back of the heels, ripple up and back to downward facing dog. And as we exhale up and over, finding our cat pose as we come to land. Inhale, cow, up and back, downward facing dog. Exhale, cat. A couple more rounds. Finding your pace, your own coordination. I find that sometimes I just free flow through movement and do a bit of column A, a bit of column B. And when we're ready, making our way back to all fours. If the wrists are niggly, you can always come onto fists or perhaps onto forearms. We're going to extend the right leg behind us, curl the right toes under, and lift up through the right heel, finding what is commonly known as bird dog. So here we're thinking again of that like tuck or that knitting in of the rib cage, the hug of the belly in, making sure that we're not finding a back bend that isn't natural. You can always reach out the left fingertips forward, or maybe the fingertips are on the ground but further out in front of you, just for a bit of stability. Breathing here. Being mindful of the back foot, you can point the toe or have a stompy foot. What difference does that make to the sensation you feel? Release the left hand down if it was lifted. And here we're just going to find a bit of free movement. So it's okay if you want to bend into that right leg. But we're going to start to move that leg around in space. Doesn't matter if we come into a back bend, if we do a bit of a weird cat-cow, if we bend through the elbows. Noticing the sensation here that we find by moving again into space that we might not normally find. Coming to find a bit of stillness, still with that right leg lifted. We're going to cross it over and behind the back of the left leg and slide it back until we perhaps feel some form of sensation in the glute. We're going to make this a bit of a dynamic movement here. So I call it twisty pigeon, which isn't a very technical term. You're going to allow yourself to plant your hands and pull with the hands to come back to a kind of bird dog movement, and then cross back and over and come back into it. So pull up and allow yourself to move back. We do a lot of pushing in yoga, not a lot of pulling. Quite nice to introduce that into our practice. And when we're ready, we'll come back to all fours. Feel free to give the hips a little bit of a wiggle or sit back on the heels for a moment before we move to the other side. So left leg out behind us, maybe a curl of the toes under to start with as we find our strong foundation. And when you're ready, lifting up through the left heel, maybe we point the left toes or have a stompy foot. Again, the choice is yours. Knitting the rib cage in and deciding what the right hand's going to do. Right fingertips are reaching the right fingertips forward. Staying with your breath here. Finding a focal point, not straight down to the ground, but not further forward, maybe just at the front of the mat. Holding here with the left leg lifted, maybe the right fingertips out in front. Allowing the right hand to come down, and we'll find that little bit of freedom in movement. Yes, you can always bend through the elbow, find back bends or kind of cat-cow style movements. Open up to the side, a little push back, reaching to one side, reaching to the other, shifting forward and back. Enjoying that this doesn't have to be the same as what we experienced on the other side. And when we're ready, coming to a moment of stillness, just so we can take that left foot more over towards the right and allow it to slide on back. So we can find this almost kind of like pigeon-esque pose. You can do a little rock side to side. We can move the hands out in a different direction if it helps give us a bit of purchase to feel into that movement, that sensation. And then we'll find a place to pull ourselves forward. It's almost like that kind of like zombie press that you often see where people pull themselves then up into a handstand. Don't worry, I will not be demonstrating such a thing on this video or maybe ever on this YouTube. Finding our twisty, pigeony movement, focusing on the push and the pull. And coming back through to our all fours. We'll allow the knees to go wide, big toes to touch, have a little sink down. How do those hips feel? Allow the forehead to come down towards the earth. Maybe feel the energy swirling around the hips, the hip creases, the glutes. Feel the breath moving in and out of the space in between the ribs of the rib cage. And shift back forward into our all fours. Curl the toes under, inhale in, exhale the hover of the knees. Push the belly back towards the thighs, peel up and back, downward facing dog. Take a moment in your downward facing dog, be animalistic. You can always take the heels over to one side and then the other, like bending into the knees, coming up on fingertips of one side. Feel into this shape, the variations of this shape. Maybe allowing yourself to really hang out in the shoulders, bounce up and down. With the belly more towards the thighs. And when we're ready, we'll start to walk our feet towards our hands. To find a forward fold, belly towards the top of the thighs, release the weight of the head down, maybe grabbing opposite elbows and having a little shimmy, a little sway side to side here as well. We'll find our way into some sun salutations, a bit of ritual. A bit of structure, a bit of routine. Release the weight of the head down. We'll inhale the arms up towards the sky. And exhale, hands down through heart center, finding a forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift or flat back. Exhale, palms or fingertips towards the ground. We can step back or hop back to plank. Holding here for a moment, pushing back through the heels, reaching the collarbones forward, finding that push down and against the ground. And we'll lower to the ground however we wish. Forehead to earth, chin to chest. Inhaling, finding our cobra pose. So think draw the shoulder blades together and down the back body, pressing into the tops of the feet. And exhale to fold. Inhale, either power up and push up to plank or all fours, and exhale up and back to downward facing dog. Inhale in, exhale to step or hop the feet forward, forward fold. Inhale the arms up to the sky, and exhale the hands to heart center. Inhale, arms up, and exhale to fold on down. Inhale, halfway lift or flat back, and exhale, palms or fingertips to the ground. Stepping back, hopping back to our plank pose, allowing ourselves to lower. Forehead to earth, chin to chest. Inhaling cobra. Exhale to fold. Inhale, power up to plank or all fours. Exhale, up and back to downward facing dog. Inhale in here and exhale to hop or step, feet towards the hands, forward fold. Inhale the arms up to the sky and exhale hands to heart center. Inhale up, slight variation here. Exhale hands down through heart center to fold. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, palms or fingertips to the ground. Inhale to step the right and the left leg back or jump to our plank pose. Coming down onto the forearms. Here, pushing back through the heels. Knees can always come down. Still thinking of being broad across the collarbones. Think of knitting that rib cage in, hugging the lower belly towards the chest. Lowering the knees down, the hip points down, finding a sphinx pose. We can always come to cobra here or perhaps a seal, whatever our body will allow. A back bend. Taking the hands roughly by the sides of the ribcage, forward to earth, chin to chest. We'll inhale to either power up to all fours or plank. And exhale up and back to downward facing dog. Inhale in, exhale, step or hop the feet forward towards the hands. Exhale to fold. Inhale the arms up towards the sky. And exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands together down through the midline, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale to fold, palms or fingertips to the ground. Inhale, stepping back or hopping back to our plank pose. Option here again to come down onto the forearms, perhaps a little bit of movement of shifting the nose forward and back, over to the left and back, over to the right and back. And perhaps moving through these places at your own time, your own pace. Allowing the knees to come down to the ground, the hip points to come down to the ground. This time, bringing your forehead to the earth, chin to chest, fingertips at roughly 10 and 2. When we're ready, we'll inhale to lift our upper body up, pressing down into the tops of the feet, and exhale to lower down. Adjust the hands so you find it easy when you come up to draw the shoulder blades together and down the back body as if they're trying to slide into your back jean pocket. Inhale as we lift. Exhale as we fold. Our oscillating cobra. Next time we fold down to the earth, hands come by the sides of the rib cage, power up to all fours or plank, up and back to downward facing dog. Inhale in here, exhale, step or hop the feet towards the hands, finding a forward fold at the top of the mat. And we'll inhale the arms up towards the sky and exhale hands to heart center. Taking a moment here to breathe. Hands can stay at heart center, perhaps the palms face forward by the sides of the body. Tadasana pose. This is our structure, our mountain pose. And everything that has to be in place and strong to allow us to stand here on our 2 feet. Let's celebrate our strength, our stability, our foundations by allowing ourselves to be creative in our movement. We're going to find ourselves in what I like to call the bubble popping exercise or flow. I'm going to turn to face towards you so there's a little bit more room for you guys to see me. We're going to start by standing on our left foot. So here we might like to lift the left toes up, spread them out wide, really feel the 3 corners of the feet grounding down into the earth, and then allow the feet to come down, making sure we're not gripping with the toes. Please be mindful here that you can always put your hands on the ground as we're exploring some free movement. The right knee we're going to allow to rise up in towards the chest. It's okay if you want a pointy foot or what I call a stompy foot. To be what's going on. You can always roll out through the ankles. And now we're going to imagine like we are in a bubble. Go with me. We are in a bubble and we want to try and pop the bubble in every possible corner we can. So we're just going to find some movement through the hips, the legs, see what random angles you can go pop. And even if you lose your balance, that's part of the game. You'll find some nice little twisty motions. It's going to be different on one side to the other as always. Notice when other parts of your body have to get involved. Notice the levers, how gravity works. Just finding some freedom. A dance, if you will. The hands can do whatever you need them to do. The face can make whatever pose or expression it needs to. And when we're ready, we'll plant the right foot down. Have a little shimmy. Maybe take a little moment to notice how the right leg feels compared to the left. Deep breath in and exhale out. On to the left, so right foot firmly planted, maybe lift those toes, spread them wide, plant them down. And notice even just by lifting the left leg, how it feels compared to the other side. And when we're ready, finding that free movement, trying to pop the bubble in all the different sides and all the different places it wants to be popped in. What spaces have you not yet explored? What edges are you finding interesting to try and reach? And when we're ready, back to standing. Taking a moment here to breathe, feeling the energy move around the legs and the hips. And again, we'll go sideways To demonstrate that our left leg is remaining planted, we'll come to our stork to owl sequence. Our left knee, or right knee, excuse me, is going to come up once more. This time I'm going to find a pointy foot. Take the leg out towards the side with a pointy foot, almost like this hovering tree pose. Arms up, a bend in the elbows, similar to before where we're keeping the rib cage knitted in, but we're finding the elbows draw down. And can we, for 3, draw the right knee towards the right elbow? 1, 2, 3. Expanding on that movement, right knee towards right elbow, and then closing the curtains with the arms, bending into the left knee and taking the right toes somewhere behind you. Inhaling in to press down into the left foot, open up right knee to right elbow, and exhale, finding our owl. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling one more time, and this time on the exhale, we're going to cross the right ankle on top of the left thigh. We're going to sink the hips back as if we're in an imaginary chair. Allowing ourselves to hinge at the hips. Maybe bring the thumb and the index finger together behind you. Open those eyes wide. Owl pose. Inhale in, exhale out. Find a focal point, a drishti. Press down into that left foot. Release the right leg down to the earth. Well done. A little shimmy, a little shake. Right foot plants, left knee lifts up and then opens out. Think pointy left foot, arms up, bend in the elbow, knitting the rib cage in. 1 with the left knee to elbow, 2 and 3. Next time we go up and close the curtains, left toes somewhere out towards the right behind you. Inhaling, press down, lift up. Exhale, close the curtains. Inhale, take flight. Exhale, gracefully land. Inhale, next time we come up, we'll cross the left ankle over the top of the right thigh. Then hinge and sink back in the hips. Thumb, forefinger, finding your chin mudra behind you, opening the eyes wide. Owl noises optional. Allowing yourself to stand up tall. Release the leg down. Finding a little shimmy and a sway with the hips. We'll take ourselves to the top of the mat if we weren't already there. Feet can be hip distance apart or feet together. A roll of the shoulders, up, back, down a few times. Opening the palms again towards the front of the room, Tadasana. We'll inhale in, take the arms out in front. Exhale, sit back in an imaginary chair. Here we can do whatever we wish with the hands in terms of they can be at heart center, they can be out in front as a counterbalance, or perhaps they move to near where your ears are. Here we're thinking of driving the knees forward as if we're trying to cover the toes, allowing the hips to hinge and sink back further into the chair. Feel the foldability of your legs, your hips. And exhale, we'll release the hands down, perhaps straighten one leg and the other. Find a bit of freedom of movement in the legs in this forward fold. Next, coming into our circle chair. There's no prescriptive way that we do circle chair. Again, free movement. I find closing the eyes very helpful. So to begin, I'll lightly bend the knees, sit my bum back into that imaginary chair. And I'll inhale and I'll start to roll my upper body up. Legs can stay bent or legs can straighten. Exhale, find some of that flowing movement like when we made those figure eights with the hands interlaced before. You might sway, swing, ripple, turn, curve, twist. The weight might move from one foot into the other, from the front of the feet to the back of the feet, or be firmly rooted in the middle. Arms can do whatever you want them to do to help guide the flow. And when we're ready, forward fold. Allow the left foot to step back. Pivot all the toes towards the left long edge of the mat, moving the hands over. Turn the toes slightly in, heels slightly out. Hands might be on the ground or block the hips for your wide leg forward fold on this side. Feel free to grab opposite elbows, release the weight of the head, and find elephant's trunk, a sway. Free movement, but notice how there's a strong structure in our legs that is allowing and facilitating this ability to move freely. Structure and freedom can't exist without the other. They define each other. The polarity between them we see in other aspects of life, like yin and yang, light and dark, cold and warm. Coming to settle and find stillness. We'll start to allow our upper body to come up. Click the heels in, maybe adjust the stance, goddess pose. So I like to put my hands initially on my thighs to start to bring myself in. Let myself know that my edge is actually deeper than I initially perceive it to be or wish it to be. Maybe lift those toes again to feel the strong foundation in the feet. Think of a tuck of the tailbone, a lift of the lower belly up, knit the rib cage in. Hands can stay on thighs, heart center, cactus arms. Breathe in and out. It's just a moment. All moments pass. Allow yourself to straighten the legs, release. We'll find our way down onto the mat. Maybe that's through a passive squat. So I'll heel toe my feet in a little bit closer and shimmy on down. Note the heels can always be lifted. We might have decided to come onto our bottom instead. Perhaps we fold forward. Or sit back on the heels. Releasing ourselves down onto our bums just so that we can take our legs out to the side and come to all fours. We'll come to our thread the needle or rolling panda variation. If I start with threading my right hand, then I'm closer to you guys, or facing you guys on the camera. Left hand, I'm going to step forward just a bit so there's more room underneath my left arm. I'm going to inhale my right fingertips towards the sky or slightly out towards the right, and exhale to thread underneath the left arm, coming onto the right shoulder. And I say the right ear, it's kind of that spot just above the right ear. Taking a moment here to get assimilated. If you find that you're really pushing more weight down into your head, it might be that the bum is not so much over the knees and we need to readjust. Option here, left hand can be quite close to the face. You can press down into it and maybe turn your gaze more towards the sky. Or perhaps we come up onto left fingertips, even potentially walking them up and out. Now, by all means, we can stay here or we can explore rolling panda. Left leg extends, the toes curl under. Maybe we lift up through the left heel. Maybe we bend the left knee, left heel to bum. Maybe the left hand reaches to grab the outside edge of the left foot, the left ankle. And perhaps we squeeze the heel to the bum, but also kick the foot into the hand to open up. Ooh, I feel myself about to roll, so I'll come out, but feel free to stay and explore for a couple breaths. And as we come out, finding any little movements in our all fours that suit us. Coming to the other side. The right hand taking a little step forward, inhaling left fingertips up and out, threading left arm underneath. Coming down onto the left shoulder, the left side of the head. Adjusting the knees, the hips, the arms, the hands. Maybe coming up on those right fingertips and going up and out. At any point we can stay in our chosen portion of this journey. Or we can extend the right leg, curl the toes under, lift the right heel up, bend into the right knee, and maybe grab the outside edge of the right foot. I always do the side I'm better at first. Interesting the reflections we make when we're in our own practice. And gently release. Coming back up and out. Again, any wiggles, rolls, movements we wish to make before coming down onto our backs. Bend both knees, soles of the feet to the floor to begin. We'll take our hands and interlace them behind our right thigh, taking our right foot up towards the sky. It can be quite relaxed here. Perhaps the hands move further up the leg or grab the toe. And we'll extend the left leg out long. Again, long is relative. There might still be a bend in that knee. Finding a hamstring stretch. Maybe tucking chin to chest and allowing the forehead to move towards the knee. And release. We'll swap to the other side. So a bend perhaps in both knees, interlacing the hands initially behind the left thigh, allowing the left leg to extend. Extending is relative. We can still have a bend in that knee. Maybe the hands move up the leg or towards the foot, and we extend the right leg out. Returning to your breath. Maybe drawing forehead towards knee, if that's a variation we so choose. Gently releasing down. And a bend in both knees, soles of the feet to the floor, so we can set up for happy baby. Feel free to do this with both legs at the same time, or you can do one side at a time. I'm separating my feet a little bit wider on the mat, drawing the knees in towards the armpits, and we can either grab the outside of the foot, the inside of the foot, peace fingers to the big toes. Find somewhere where you can grab a hold. Strap again can make the arms longer. And we're thinking of drawing the knees in towards the armpits, but the feet still want to stomp towards the ceiling. And the tailbone, we try and think of peeling more down towards the earth. You can always have a little play about either stay in stillness or extend one leg and then the other. That might bring you into a plow variation. And release. Soles of the feet towards the ground, maybe roughly as wide as the mat, knees coming in towards one another. Arms and hands can rest on the body or perhaps overhead. Open through the shoulders. Finding stillness once again. A moment to reflect on your practice, or just a moment to allow the practice to settle in your body. It's been said that the pose of the yoga practice only really starts when you come out of it. Staying here for as long as you wish. Thank you everyone for joining me in your practice today.